Even as we have these conversations, the budget is still swirling around our heads, and a lot of the conversations around that, then the issues that we're going to have to deal with. Two gentlemen join us in the studio today in the hot seat, and they are already here. Moses Derito is the Vice President of EMAC. He'll tell you what EMAC is in just a minute. Good morning, Moses.
Morning, how are you doing?
Good to see you again.
Yes, nice to be here.
Basi go.
Yes.
We'll talk about that.
Day job.
That's the day job. Let's see what happens at night.
I don't think you want to know.
No? Still too early for the day? Okay. Martin Chomba is the chairperson of the Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya. Good morning, Martin.
Good morning.
Don't be nervous when you hear these stories because he and I know exactly what we're talking about.
I know.
Don't be nervous when you hear these stories of the school tragedies.
No, it's unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
It has to be well. Let's deal with things when we can. We're talking today, budget 2026-2027. EVs have been talked. We've heard it, EVs, and folks are like, are we talking about somebody called Evelyn? No. Electronic vehicles, what we're talking about. And we'll get into that and the petroleum industry impact. We'll talk about budget. But first, Dennis will welcome you to today's proverb. He'll tell you where we are, and we'd love to get your interpretation.
Today we are in the Gambia. Population of around 2.5 to 2.8 million people. Now, the interesting thing about it is they have 600 different species of birds. So if you love birds, go to Gambia, enjoy yourself, and just listen to the birds chirp in the morning. Nairobi, wezi walienda. Unless you go around Nyayo, Nyayo, then the marabou stocks, you see them.
Are those still considered birds?
Exactly.
They don't
or
cheat,
like post-historic dinosaurs. Okay.
Right? But then again, one thing that stands out for them is when they go to elections, they don't use the ballot paper.
The birds? Sorry.
Not the birds, the people of Gambia. They use glass marbles to elect their president. So you just take your marbles and you elect the president, put them in a tube, and that decides who the president is. Affordable for them. They've accepted that's their way of democracy. But let's go to the proverb this morning.
Glass marbles like banos.
Yes. Yes, that one. Banta.
So what if I have like 10 banos?
So there's a tube that is written your name. So if you have many of them, you become the president.
No, I'm saying me as the voter.
How many can you come with is what you're saying. That's a very
I'm
good
sure
question.
they have mechanism to make sure that
There must be a way.
If you played Banta, we used to steal the other guy's Banta. You step.
Yeah,
So this is a story for another day.
A story for another day. Yeah, but let's go to the proverb. A disobedient fowl obeys in a pot of soup. You know they have birds, so yes, a disobedient fowl obeys in a pot of soup. Hey, Chomba, how would you interpret it?
like we have another proverb that speaks to the same, and it says that they used to advise people in those days, because there were forests that don't use this route. But they would say, if you don't, as a person that does not listen or hear the advice of not where to pass, will certainly hear the crunching of the bones because of the hyenas that will be eating their legs. So ni asiyesikia la mkuu huvunjika guu. So it's basically that if you don't obey, and now you'll certainly have to obey later, but you will be in a circumstance that will make sure that you don't negotiate whether you want to obey or not. Yeah.
Yes, Moses, how would you interpret it?
He takes me back to my methali za Kiswahili in the 80s, which we had to cram. And I remember that one. They used to threaten us with asisikie la mkuu atavunjika guu. But I would also say nguruwe karangwa na mafuta yake. So if you're not, if you've got some bird that's just rogue, it can make a good meal.
Do you understand those two proverbs?
Nguruwe karangwa. That one.
Inakarangwa.
Well said, well interpreted.
All right, so in the finance bill, of course, we've heard and seen quite a lot about electronic vehicles, EVs is what been shortened to, and that whether it's a way to reduce issues around combustion when we talk about climate and environment, or if it's a way to then avoid expensive petrol or diesel. But then when we're looking at the finance bill 2026-2027, this has come up. So first of all, let's let you tell us what EMAC is. and try to understand that from that point of view.
Well, Electric Mobility Association of Kenya
right.
Yes, which is EMAC, is a member-led organization, and what we tend to do is we do a lot of advocacy for adoption and of electric vehicles. So we started 3 years ago, mainly because whenever we would try and engage authorities or government, they would say, don't come as an individual, don't come as a company. We don't make regulations. We don't make for an individual company. And it's a young industry. So around 44 companies heading to 50 now, and a few individuals who are interested in the electric vehicle space, from the vehicles all the way to the charging infrastructure to carbon credits have come together. And it's a growing organization. And then we try and be the voice of the industry. So we basically advocate for the industry, adoption. We do a bit of education. We do all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So electric vehicles have shown up in the budget, in the finance bill, quite some. From what you have been able to understand, Derito, what is going on here?
We've been in these corridors of finance bill from day one. This is the 4th year that electric vehicles have shown up. So I think the idea is, if we speak about specifically for this year, is we had got some incentives a few years ago where some of the components, especially if you're doing local assembly, you would get, we were zero rated for electric bicycles, motorcycles, and electric buses. And then there's no, and that has helped the adoption you've seen in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
However, what has been the biggest challenge for the industry is every year we fight for an incentive, and the following year, we are told it's going to be removed. So this year, the proposal is not a full removal, it's moving us from zero rated to exempt, which has, of course, an effect, especially for those who are doing local assembly. So if I am buying, if I'm building a motorcycle and there are certain parts I am buying locally, that I cannot then claim that input VAT, which, of course, I will pass on that cost to the final user. Same thing with the people doing the buses or the bicycles. So then that means it becomes a disincentive. Or then, on the other hand, I would say, then why am I buying the local inputs? But if I brought them fully, if I brought, let's say, seats from China as part of the CKD kit, I will not pay for it. So I think for me, it's, I was talking to my colleague here earlier as we were waiting, electric vehicles are an opportunity, but it is not the switch that solves all the problems. It's not that. This is a young industry. It's a young industry that needs to grow and get to a point whereby we are in a position to start being a solution. Right now, we are literally a baby that's not walking. We are crawling as an industry. Yeah. Very young industry.
Chomba, we look at EVs in the market, and I'm going to look at it in different perspective, right? Okay. So where we find ourselves today, especially in the fuel crisis that we are in, is because the demand for fuel is high. Why? Because that is what is pushing the transport sector, moving of goods, moving of people from one point to the other. Now, EVs comes in as a solution to the demand, because if we buy, say, 1 million liters of diesel, for example, but we have EVs that are being used to ferry people from point A to point B, the demand for diesel will go down because they don't use diesel. So that diesel that we're talking about will then be used for other sectors that need it, right? Now, when we see these in the finance bill, additional taxes going into the EV sector, that means it's going to be expensive to manufacture, expensive for Mwananchi to purchase. That means we'll still go back to our traditional way of importing fossil fuel powered vehicles, which then adds on the pressure. Are we seeing that being a disservice to what we're trying to solve, fuel crisis in the country?
Thank you very much. Allow me first of all to start by an indictment to the people who make policies, and especially around taxation in the country. And as Derito has rightly put it, the fact that today you lobby for something, you're given next year, it is taken away through the finance bill, is one of the economic disincentives that we've been talking about, what you call unreliable, unpredictable taxation regimes. Because you remember, when people are looking to put up a business, you're looking at your break-even time, and you're looking at the return on your investment. And when you're doing the postulations, when you're sitting down to do to focus on how you'll do your business, you're looking at maybe 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and there has to be a predictability that allows you now to really strategize. But when you think that every year there will be a change of taxes and laws and all that, then you are not able to even arrange your finances or project how your business is going to be. So that's an indictment. The people who are doing they are doing taxes, and they have an interest to grow the industries in Kenya. First of all, we must appreciate that we need to have a predictable tax regime. So that if I put up a business today, I know in the next 5-10 years, this is going to be the tax regime. Having said that, when you look at the impact of the EVs in the country, within the space of both mobility versus the fuel that we use. We say that petroleum is especially diesel, is a production oil, is a production fuel. And so there's a lot of competition in terms of the industries and the motor vehicles and all that. And the space of EV, we don't, from where I see it, we don't see, and the industry has long accepted. And if you want to know that we have accepted EVs, you'll see that every major petroleum company has rebranded from petroleum to energies. There's a reason, because if you look at any company that you know, they are no longer so and so petroleum, they are so and so energies, because we are realizing and we appreciate that we are changing. The society is changing, so is the business topography. The economic outlook is changing. Why? Today, with the growth of EV, with the growth of solar, with the growth of solar energy and wind power, we have not seen a decrease in the use of fossil fuel. We have not seen that. Why? The economies are expanding. And they are expanding, like he said, the growth in the EV sector in the country is not where it ought to be. Yes, it is coming, but it's not gotten to a place where we would say that it is threatening the use of diesel. No, far from it. Neither is solar or wind power. So they are becoming complementary sources of energy for the economy. And so for us, where we are also changing our petrol stations, the outlets that we have. We are now putting them as energy centers, where if you're looking to swap the battery, that is where the electric motorcycles will come and swap those batteries. So for us, we are not threatened. We are actually building now, investing in making our infrastructure robust, such that if you need to charge, you don't need to go anywhere else. So, and because we have an existing infrastructure, they may not need to reinvest in another infrastructure that looks at charging and all that. So we are just complementing one another. So there is no clash from where we sit. And from development, economic development study, if you look at it, you realize that each part is needed. Why? Today, even if we had 10,000 EVs in the country, the first question, if we had 100,000 EVs in this country, or 1 million one, the first question you need to ask yourself, have we developed our energy sources to a level that we can charge these vehicles effectively? So it is not one thing, because it's I see people look at EV like you can just import 1 million vehicles and they have taken over now. There are a lot of other industry that must be developed, amongst them the energy sources, because they will now compete with the little energy that we have. And today, the beauty about the EVs, they are charging at night. The few cars that we have. So when what our energy ministry has been talking about, we lose a lot of power at night because there is no uptake. So it is becoming a complementing issue where they will charge now, they will be able to uptake that energy. During the day they are driving, at a charge usiku. So when it's charging, then we are not using energy. During the day, the energy is being used by other industries, and it's complementing.
So if we look at all of this in relation to, I mean, the atmosphere, but then we want to say pointedly at the budget, is that, again, electronic vehicles now, with the suggestion in the finance bill, is that they'll be zero rated, meaning they're not subject to tax.
That's what we've had right now.
Yeah,
that's the current position.
That is what we are moving away
but
from.
that's for local assembly.
That's for local assembly,
not for
of vehicle.
an imported vehicle.
So for an imported vehicle, the tax still is applicable.
Yes.
So it's neither here nor there. And we also know that they're a more expensive option than other vehicles. So why, if that were the case for locally assembled vehicles, what's the position for locally assembled vehicles of an electronic nature in Kenya? Are they? Is it a budding system process, or is it well established? Is there support for it? Because my question is, how would you apply a tax, because this is kind of like an incentive, zero rated on locally assembled electronic vehicles is almost like a benefit. But if you don't have the requisite infrastructure, it's almost like selling ice to an Eskimo. I already have it. Why are you giving it? How is it helping anyone?
I think there's two ways to look at it. The reason why the incentive was given was to encourage the growth. So we are talking about 3 or 4 years ago having 700 vehicles in country. And when I say vehicles, I mean motorcycles, tractor, bus, everything, every category. We had less than 1,000 4 years ago. Today we are above 40,000, and that's growing. Majority of that being motorcycles. Now, locally in country, we already had a very robust assembly of motorcycles, the ICE ones, the internal combustion engine. So of course there is, as you then asking for this new industry to be given incentive, there is competition pressures for those who are already providing. So there was almost trying to level the same, get the same incentives that the guys doing ICE were, but then to make EVs slightly, give them just that bit more benefit, is where they were given that VAT zero rating. And that has been the only benefit that they have above ICE. And the reason how we justify that is an electric vehicle often is either 2 times, if not 3 times, more expensive than the ICE counterpart. And it's a case of technology. EVs have been in the world, at least I would say that mainstream in the last 10-15 years. ICE vehicles have been there from Daimler-Benz in the 80s. So there is a cost of technology. Now, anybody who's then getting into EV has the additional problem of building infrastructure. So if I set up an electric motorcycle or bicycle or even bus, or even if I decide to do electric pro boxes in Kenya, I can't just sell the vehicles. I have to think about, when I sell it to you, where are you going to charge? So either I have to sell you charge at home, so I have to sell you the charger. You may need to do some upgrades in your home, or I must do public charging. So there's
Chomba petrol station.
I agree, but Chomba is not going to invest that money until he sees a sizable amount. Otherwise, because these guys are real estate guys.
Chomba is not going to say, okay, that's great in Dorito, you're bringing in 10 vehicles. Okay, let me set up a charging station in my petrol station. It's not going to happen.
No,
it has to make business sense.
Exactly. He's setting himself up for when I am a regular customer of his. So he's ready. So when there's that vehicle, but when you're talking about 35,000 vehicles in the entire country, it's a drop. So this is an industry that, if we're saying that, yes, if we look at the environmental conditions, we look at energy independence, especially with a huge curtailment, we have 800 gigawatt hours of power that we actually pay for it, but we don't use it. Now, all your border guys who are doing your deliveries, what are they doing between 10 and 5 a.m.? That's when they're charging. Those batteries have been charging. All the buses, the 100 or so buses that are operating in Nairobi, they are charging. So it becomes, if it's your personal car, it will be charging. So it actually starts helping uptake that curtailment that we are paying for right now, that ends up in our bills that we don't. But if we then can accelerate that tenfold, we then can start being affecting now the things that we are talking about, what the matatu industry is saying. If you've got 1,000 vehicles, it will not affect Nairobi, because Nairobi is 20,000 matatus. Okay, but when you start making, you've got 10%. When the motorcycles start hitting at least 10%, 20%, you may then start putting that pressure is talking, where that energy mix starts changing. And it needs not to be a Nairobi affair. It needs to be a countrywide affair. But right now, what we've been doing is we're doing this start-stop. We agree this year, and people plan for it, and we are showing government, look, from less than 1,000 to 40,000 in 3 years. That shows you there is growth, there is uptake, there is acceptance. But if then I don't know what regime I will be under, what fiscal regime I'll be under next year, every year my investment, or when I'm looking for investment, I'm always jittery, I'm not sure. So
because when you talk about it like that, then I look at the EV sector not just as vehicles on the road. I look at it from a bigger business perspective, where if we left the taxation regime the way it was, right, then that would mean we would see more units that are coming up, which would then force the government to start thinking, all right, Sawa, we have more vehicles that are coming in due course, we will be consuming the energy that is idle, and perhaps we need to start investing even more on projects that will provide the country with more power to sustain all this, because technology and development is something
Just
that
go up north
continues
here.
every other time.
The Ethiopians built a huge dam.
Yes.
They realized we have more power than we can use. What did they do? They said ban ICE vehicles for their country. That made sense to them because they have more power they can use. Now they've got a few 100,000 EVs, and that's growing. So what are they doing? They've got two problems in the fuel sector. They don't have foreign exchange to import, and when they import, it's not enough. But they have abundant power, so they're now changing that dynamic. But again, it's not a switch. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's happening slowly. So it has to be a 10-year plan. It's not a 1-year plan that it's not this finance bill cycle of, and I say the finance bill is literally an 8-month cycle, because when you pass it on 1st of July, assuming I'm investing, by the time I import units or kits to start assembling, I will be giving those to customers, if I'm lucky, in November. Okay? So I have November, December, up to around April to do business. Then I start thinking, what are they going to do this year? Will I import? I wait.
So with the changes that we see in the finance bill and the opportunities that do exist, that means you as a business mind who's waiting for enough units for you to set up charging stations, you equally can't put in money in that sector, because you don't know, maybe next year, while we imported 1,000 this year, maybe in the coming year we'll import 20, because it is expensive for you and doesn't make any commercial sense. So essentially, we're shooting ourselves in the leg.
Yes. You see, the biggest problem that we have in the country, I'll tell you, is a governance issue. And governance from a perspective of differentiating between businesses. And it is true, we live in a political economy, but we must be prudent enough to appreciate that there are spaces that cannot be politicized. There are spaces that cannot be left to the whims of politicians. I am an aspiring politician, but I'm alive to the fact that at some point there's the people we call the technocrats in the government, the permanent government, those people who are in charge of policy, those people who have developed these systems over time to manage the way the economy works. And when it comes to the issues of making sure that the economy is persistent and it is predictable in terms of growth, then we have a duty, and we don't have the luxury of looking at it from the eyes of who is in power today or what will happen tomorrow. If we do that, we are dead. I told you, the way I look at the development of EV, I look at it as a piece of a jigsaw puzzle that is the economic development outlook of the country. Because they are plugging in to a space where, as they go, today we have around, give or take, 40,000 units in the country. We've not started to feel the effect of the power issue. And actually, we may need to develop them to about probably 400,000 units to effectively, or to get near to an effective uptake of the power that we lose at night and we pay for. So when we get to a place where we'll be talking about 1 million EV vehicles in this country, then an emergence of a new growth in terms of the need to supply power now comes up. So we may look at the alternative sources of power, and we may want to have people and industries setting up power production business. And that now plays into the larger economy. That comes with so many other infrastructural development. Because if at my station now I require a charging space, and I'm putting up that charging space, it will require to be manned by people. So that will be unemployment. Yeah. Today, I told you we have about 6,200 petrol stations across the country. If we transition all those into energy centers, they will require to have probably another 5 people in every station to man these power stations. So employment issue now also gets also sorted in a way. So there are a lot of inputs, and there are a lot of other things that support the power charging space that now requires other industries to feed into it. And so, as I say, it's a whole economic outlook if you look at it. So EV just plays like a jigsaw puzzle, and they just come to complement what is happening around the energy industry and the mobility industry. People should not see it as a competition. People should see it from the perspective of the economic growth, that whatever is happening, they are adding up into a GDP. That's how I look at it.
There seems to be appetite to have this option in the Kenyan economy. What with the president talking about, tax exemption for the first 100,000 vehicles that we brought into the country, and looking at tax incentives across board. So there seems to be an appetite for it. Now, can you have an appetite without having the infrastructure that is required set up, whether it's brick and mortar infrastructure or if it's the basic understanding of what needs to be done? I guess that's for both of you.
I think in the end, if you go to any EV conference, you'll hear that story of the chicken and the egg. But I'll put it this way. 25 years ago, when we started the mobile phones came, the infrastructure was not there. For us who are old enough to remember, Friday all calls would jam. Nameless sings it in a song that says, that it would jam. That was normal. But what happened? As uptake continued, that infrastructure grew and got to a point whereby it went even above the uptake of the vehicles. Today, we take it for granted that we have internet, for example, coverage of internet across the country because of those decisions we made. So therefore, if I know as an investor that we've got a tax holiday on electric vehicles for the next 3 years, so what do I do? I start planning on how are those vehicles going to charge, either through fast charging in petrol stations and in other areas. Yourselves here at Standard Group, you've got huge parking. I've seen solar. You could actually and your staff members could actually charge using renewable sources here locally. So you start planning for it. The government starts planning where is the next generation. And the one thing that's very beautiful about Kenya is the fact that we are using renewable sources of energy to charge what would have been seen as replacing what would have seen as a dirty fuel. So there's a very great opportunity for us in this region, especially in Africa. But we have to plan for it. It cannot be year on year that this year we say, so let's bring the 100,000. The moment that is signed into law, and God, I hope and we pray that we will see it in the amendment of the finance bill and the East African community this time. If we see it and that happens, I can tell you his members are going to start looking at investing. And now it's not just the charger. You have to do power upgrades because you might not have enough power at that petrol station. That is Kenya Power has to upgrade the power. That is money being left here that could have gone out. Now, I say that for us, we count how many liters of diesel we replace. Now, if I buy an EV, if you buy an EV for the rest of your life, as long as that vehicle is on the road, you'll be using locally generated power. The vehicles we are using right now, are subject to Strait of Hormuz for the rest of their lives. So we have to ask ourselves, what is our competitive advantage? EV gives us an opportunity, but it's not a replacement, because all the vehicles that we have, the 4 million motorcycles, tractors, combine harvesters, all those vehicles, the ones that are currently in the country, will continue using fuel.
Moses,
Yes.
let me just remain on you a little bit. So when you talk about EVs, it's, again, it's bigger than what we think about, because we also get into the climate discourse, right? Because with the amount of EVs that we have in the country, then that is subject for even carbon credits.
Yes.
We can take that to the international community and say, because we have 1,000 vehicles on the road, we've been able to remove X amount of fossil fuels in the air, and we are worth this much. With these taxes getting in, that means it is expensive. That means units that coming into the country will be fewer. Kenyans getting into that space, ni wachache. That means also in the entire conversation of carbon credits, the tonnage amount also goes down. So essentially, Kenya stops being the darling of the world when it comes to matters climate change and being a leader to being someone who's passed a law that goes against those policies.
I don't know what to add to that. That's exactly where we are. So here we are in a country that uses renewable energy. We are not burning coal to power vehicles. We are actually using geothermal. We are using wind. We are using solar. We are using hydro. So the marginal, the amount of carbon you're sequestering just by one vehicle is higher than anywhere else in the world. That's the challenge South Africa has, because they're burning coal to power a vehicle. So you've literally, what you've reduced is very little. Here, you on one hand, you're burning coal, which is a big pollutant, and then you say, I'm driving clean. Here, you're getting clean energy and driving a clean vehicle. And then we can even take it, maybe when we talk about carbon credits, it passes people. Assuming you're in Mombasa Hospital, unfortunately I've been admitted there. You think there are bees outside because of all those tuk-tuks making that noise. Imagine how would the patient's quality be if we turned those into electric? Noise goes away. It's already happening. An electric tuk-tuk will enter a beach hotel and pick you at reception, but not the fuel ones. There are certain things, the noise in town, the soot around, just that, the particulate matter around Kencom area. If we could just go 30% of those vehicles being clean vehicles, it changes how we operate. Even health benefits. One of our biggest challenges in health is respiratory, and you can connect that directly to tailpipe emissions.
Chomba.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity then that you would also get to be a carbon credits player, because you set up business, you are charging electrically, and with everything there, you not only get value by charging per hour in terms of someone charging, but you also get to qualify for a carbon credits recipient of the same. With this finance bill, then one asks the question, is it that we do not critically look at what it is we are putting into this finance bill that denies us opportunity to grow as a country? All you're concerned about is political expediency.
You see, you know where you are drawing me to now.
You're the one who said you're an aspiring politician.
Yeah, it is a space that is, yesterday I was driving with somebody and they asked me a political question and that has to do with the finance bill and all that. And I remember telling them, now as I get older, I'm starting to appreciate the wisdom of the person that said that ignorance is bliss. Because when you don't know some of these things, they don't bother you. And then you're okay. Unfortunately, we have a disjointed government infrastructure. An infrastructure that, I'll give you an example, that one department of government does not know what the other department is doing, and these departments are in the same ministry. And so, when everyone is giving their budget proposal or they are giving their tax proposals, they are giving them in an antagonistic way. So you are recommending this, within, say, we are in the energy, we are in the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, but you see the people dealing with petroleum are giving this, and then the guys dealing with the geothermal power generation are giving this, and whatever they are giving is antagonizing each other within the same ministry. You'll see when it. I'll give you a very simple example. We have struggled at some point with within petroleum. We have devolution, isn't it? We have places. We have this county, and the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Petroleum and KRA. Are all government ministries. So you'll find that when you're transporting petroleum from Nairobi and you are in Nairobi and you're going to Kiambu, you pay a certain distribution tax in Kiambu for petroleum. Then the same vehicle is headed to Murang'a and then to Nakuru or to Nyeri. And into all these places, you're going paying distribution taxes of a petroleum product that is regulated by EPRA in terms of all the prudent costs that are supposed to be input costs in distribution of petroleum. But the Council of Governors or the devolution department does not feed EPRA with these costs that these people are paying elsewhere. So you'll find that what EPRA has given and what is required for petroleum distribution is conflicting. It is the same thing that we are having now within where we are. Today, petroleum and EVs, there should be clear guideline that guides how we develop other, say for instance, we need to have a clear carbon credit trading guidelines, and from there, that is where now that is what should inform the policy directives that now cascades down to how we develop the EV, how we develop the petroleum, because of that guiding principle. Today, what we have is knee-jerk reactions. If this industry is making noise, tell them this, give them this. For instance, I appreciate the president saying that the 100,000 vehicles, EV vehicles that we are bringing in, but now he will tell you, and he knows this is true. The customs at that level is not just a Kenyan issue, isn't it? It's an East African thing. So unless this thing is legislated upon, it would just remain a story. And you cannot bring in vehicles to Mombasa and tell the KRA there was a presidential directive that I should not pay. You get the problem. So unless it is legislated upon, it becomes an issue. And for me, what I would wish that we do to grow this industry is what we did with the mobile telephone he was talking about, or the digital space, bringing in the digital equipment away from the analog. Money has a way of following value. You create value, money follows. Investment follows. So when people see value, and value comes in terms of policy directives that are solid, predictable, that if I'm coming to invest $100 million in this country and I'm coming from outside there, I know that for the next 10 years, there's not going to be a tax regime that will, or a physical space that will, I'll be told, look here, the things have changed now, you have to do this, you have to do this. And that is what is disincentivizing investment and the growth of businesses in the country.
So you're saying that the folks
let me
who
just
are
add something
outside,
before you
they are aware?
Yes.
Let me tell you about
investors
value.
aware.
Yes. Let me tell you about value.
You oscillate between what is right and what is wrong. You don't have a space. We cannot place you anywhere.
Sometimes we talk here and we sound quite clever. But let's take it down. I have a client. I'm looking at his figures. Fuel went up by 35%. Yeah, he drives it's a matatu. Okay, but they only increased fare by 10%. Okay, so he's absorbing 20%. But by using the EV, he's making 30% more. Because the cost, if we just to take out everything else, just look at cost of energy, where he spends 10,800 shillings on his matatu every day in diesel, the equivalent of electric is 3,000 bob.
What is he doing with 3,000 bob in this electric vehicle?
That's the cost of charging.
Okay.
The cost of charge.
Okay.
So when you take it to that level, when the Boda guy who rides that bicycle and brings you your KFC or brings you your Carrefour, whatever the product you've ordered, his cost is much lower when he's using an electric bicycle or an electric motorcycle.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So we said we are talking.
Yeah.
Okay. How much is this electric motorcycle?
So what has happened in the motorcycle industry, very beautiful thing has happened over the last 3 years. When it started, motorcycles were double the price of an ICE. What have these guys done? They have segregated the battery from the motorcycle. So the motorcycles, in some cases, with some companies, is cheaper than ICE. But then what you do is you swap. So you don't own the battery. You own the motorcycle. Just like you don't own the gas cylinder in your house. It's not yours. You've just rented it. It's an energy receptacle. You take it back, they fill it up for you. That's what battery swapping is. So you go, you take your battery, you get another a fully charged one, and you continue. And that is the cost. When you look at that cost, if you were to count it per kilometer, that's much lower. Now, that's what's going on in the motorcycle industry, and that's a mature industry. But why is it working?
But how much is it, Dorito?
In terms of to swap?
No, to buy the thing in the first place.
To buy the bike.
It's on the high side. It's around 150,000. There are people who are below 100,000 today.
And to buy an ICE, we're looking at about 100,000?
Around the same
price.
Okay.
So that's happened because that's growing. If you come to a personal vehicle, we are a country that imports used vehicles.
Yes.
Nobody wants a used EV.
No. True.
If I look around here, none of you has a 3-year-old Ford. People want, but to buy a new vehicle, to buy a 2023, 2024 vehicle, I'm not even talking about 2026. The tax hits you because very hard. Because our tax, the way we've set up our tax is we punish people who want newer technology. So you are telling me as a Kenyan, I wait until that EV is used in
8 years.
8 years. Now, where is our source market? Japan. Japan is not big on EVs.
True.
No.
It's not been. So you only have to get, our only source is UK. Then you have to deal with the sterling pound, which is very expensive. So used EVs is not even
an option.
Then now go to China. China you can't buy used EVs from China because they're left-hand drive. So you have to buy brand new, which are specifically built for you. So the cards are already
tipped against
you.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about the policy, you must also think about where are these vehicles going to come from.
So when the president talks about this tax-free thing of 100,000 vehicles, where are they coming from?
These vehicles will come from China, but they will not come next week because investors must now say, if that is legislated, now the OEMs will go and say, okay, there's a market in Kenya. Let's build the vehicles. Is there charging? That becomes a long term. That's why it's not a switch. This is a plan. You plan for 5 years. You plan for 10 years.
And unfortunately,
that's what
before
the Norwegians
the debate is over, we change the tax regime.
Oh, no.
And remember, we only import 100,000 vehicles in the country in a given year.
Yes.
So it's not saying if it's given on the 1st of July, are we saying that every imported vehicle in Kenya will be EV?
No.
Where from?
I'm asking the question.
I'm
asking the question, Chomba.
Yes.
In our tax regime, seems as if we are knee-jerking and reacting on all these issues other than staying visionary in the long term. Let me give you an example. Today we talk about China being the leader in terms of absorption and manufacturing of EVs. It's not the United States, it is China.
It is China.
Why? Because China started with the manufacturing of batteries. They understand the technology and they are good at it, because today when you talk about batteries from China, you would take around 20 minutes full capacity charge because they are good at that technology. Over the years, protectionist decisions and policy, because of the vision they had in changing the country to lower the emissions in the country, they decided to go EV. It is a vision that they've stayed with for over 10 years with the same policies throughout. In Kenya today, we come up with a good policy. We do not look at the vision in terms of 10, 20 years. We are looking at it in 8 months because we have a finance bill that we need to fund. How does that affect the entire energy sector in moving forward, both in terms of technology, in terms of growth, and making sense in the 21st century.
We agreed, and I agree with Derito that we bring the conversation to the level
Yes.
that the common person easily understands. And this is how I look at our tax regime. Our tax regime is akin to a very hungry person. The decision they make is not for posterity. Is for what can I eat now? What is available now? So our tax regime, we do not organize our tax around economic growth. It's around collection. Our incentive is where can we collect money now? Whether that industry will survive
Or die.
is a non-issue. Because we have a pressing need. You see, when you have you seen yourself in town and you are in the middle of Nairobi and you have not eaten the whole day, and you are struggling between the 50 bob whether you can eat kidogo or you can walk kidogo. If you live in Kangemi, your mind now start telling you, I can actually eat 30 bob. I walk to Westlands and use the 10 bob to go to the next place. That decision is not informed by anything other than the pangs, the pangs you're feeling. And so that is our tax organization. We organize our taxes.
You're too kind. I would have said it's the opposite. You've eaten, but you need to go. You need to go somewhere, and
so there is not even a trade-off.
An emergency.
Once now you're full is when you realize that this distance I cannot manage to walk.
I'll feel hungry.
So then you start making frantic calls to borrow. To borrow. It is basically what we are doing.
And God for Fuliza.
This is basically what we are doing. And so we are finding ourselves in a place where those of us who sit down and wait for policies that we will inform growth of the country now are also akin to a vehicle that is raving. It has everything okay, but the gear is not engaging. You know, unaona ile bus is kwa stage. So they are always like they are raving to go, but they are not going. Nobody is engaging the gear. And that is how the businessmen in this country are. They are all really, if you ask any business person today, they have a plan. Yes, they have a plan to grow. Everybody has a plan to grow. But there needs to have somebody who, the clutch is already pressed in. The clutch is pressed in, but nobody is engaging the gear. So, and how do you engage the gear? Because we're bringing that conversation down. We are talking about engaging the gear. We want to see. You see, like we had an education sector that grew up in this country in an unprecedented manner. That around East Africa region, we are the best in terms of growing the education sector, especially the private schools and all that, because there was a regime that looked at appreciating education. So whether it was President Moi, every time he was talking about education. When Kibaki came in, the regime was free primary education. And so it was all hands on deck. Everybody knew if this is the policy guiding the country, I will not go wrong by investing in education. We need the same thing. What do we have a predictable growth strategy, or are we becoming like the business people that you've seen, those guys who say nataka kufanya biashara, and they look at Ndu today is going to China, so I go to China, then I come back, I don't know what happens in China, I want to do what is being done in Nairobi, nauza smoky, I'm doing the other thing. There's nothing that you're doing that is predictable, but it's because it's a fish rots from the head. So if our government policymakers give us a consistency way of looking at policies and taxation, then I am telling you, everybody else will start, because they know if I take this road, I'll surely get to Mombasa. But kama barabara inaishia hapa Kibwezi,
and tomorrow another place.
Yes, and diversions. Every day there's a diversion, and those diversions are going nowhere. So, and this is why we must do it as a matter of policy to delink political rhetorics and the business environment.
Well said.
To make it very clear, I think then it was one of the points of this conversation to now understand exactly where we are. So when you hear EVs shouting all over the place at 100,000, you say, hey, this is exactly what it means. And if you don't have the structure, and if you don't then have the real incentive, then you're actually building on sand.
You see what the president said the other day? look at it from this point. So to manufacture EVs, 100,000 EVs to bring into the country, they are not seated somewhere to be brought into the country.
Yeah.
So somebody in China will have to look at that directive and they'll start investing because Kenya needs them. But then again, this person will tell the people that to do research for them, wait a minute, look at how consistent are these people. So they'll tell you, no. Last year, the tax regime was different. Yes. The other year it was different. So it follows that it's likely to be different. So we cannot invest in this because of Kenya.
So if we then plan, and this is what, and I think we're going back to where we started. If we want 100,000, okay, let's say, I like the idea. By the way, it's a good idea. And it's a good step. Now, what is the plan after the 100,000? So if you want to continue enjoying those incentives, you must bring part of that value chain to Kenya. So that I know that maybe 100,000 takes us 3 years. From year 4, for me to continue enjoying duties, fiscal incentives, year 4, I must do maybe some sort of assembly in Kenya. I must
something.
do something. Now, that becomes clear. He then now knows that in this year, there will be an increase of 50%.
So I can set up stations.
Yes. On the other side, Kenyan is now thinking, okay, with this uptake of power, we need to be
more generation.
And then we connect.
So a whole ecosystem.
So the way we feel is, we talk to transport, they are aligned, they are disciples. We go to energy, part of it they are aligned. We go to environment, I don't know. Then treasury comes, they've not been in the room, and they say that. And you sit there and you start again, and you do this the following year and the following year.
Makes it clear. But time doesn't allow us to go further. But this has been very clear in terms of where we actually need to go. Moses Nderito is the EMAC Vice President, joined by Martin Chomba, today the Chairman of the Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya. Gentlemen, thank you, both of you, for being here. Hopefully that we can get some consistency. But it has to be deliberate. Asante Sana for keeping it in the Situation Room this morning. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.